Welcome back into another week of Every Day We're Covering. Chris Parks, S.J. Munoz with you once again to talk sports wagering and drinking beverages when it goes your way or when it doesn't, one way or the other. S.J., it's been a pretty busy weekend. We've got quite a few things to touch on here this week.
Yeah, those two things kind of sound like a match made in heaven, and even winning or losing is still a hell of a time for me and us. So we're good to go either way. Got all these graduation ceremonies out of the way. I believe so. I hope so. If there's another one on the calendar, I'm gonna have to feel sick day on that one. But yeah, we're good to go. And like you said, lots to talk about. Look back and then also look forward to a big week, especially with the playoffs and the professional leagues kind of ramping up here.
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend for lots of things in life, and of course it is graduation season. Everybody's gearing up for kind of getting their summer started too. You know, we're getting close to that Memorial Day weekend where everybody gets their campers ready and whatever the hell else they're gonna do, and then
get them trunks dusted off there, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Get everything cleaned up and ready to roll. I know my daughter was able to go to a birthday party next door, and they busted out one of the giant slide with the water feature thing on the bottom of it that they rented, and so they had a hell of a time with that. It was a perfect day for it on Saturday, so yeah, it's nice to have that season kind of in hand here once again for sure. And as we, of course, enjoy that lovely weather, we're going to be enjoying some beverages along with it, and we do that here on the show as well, so we've probably are starting to, transition to having a few more of them hanging around for that purpose during the summertime. But I went with one. I had one of these. It's Big Brother the other day here on the show, so I went back and I did buy the Blue Moon Light. And I had to try out the Blue Moon Light, so it's pretty good. Like I said before, I don't know that the recipe changed that much from the old Light Sky or whatever. They just kind of rebranded it, but it is a good beer. And I had quite a few of them on that nice sunny Saturday. So, yeah, it works out well for that. How about you?
Yeah, I have to apologize. A little bit predictable here, and kind of these days I'm getting to be a one-trick pony, I feel like. But I'm sticking with my Yingling, but I went with the lager, not the Flight. Okay. This time. Just, I don't know, just like you said, just getting that summer vibe. And just, I don't know, I'm kind of in that mode. I'll try to do better as we go forward here. That's such an easy grab when I know, like, I'm going to be, posted up watching hours worth of sports on TV, and I want to steady drink and not kind of crash out there before the final gun sounds off, if you know what I mean. So I want to try to make it to the end and keep my wits about me. So a nice little Yingling lager will do that for you. But we'll get a little bit more interesting next week. But I'm not really mad at this. It always tastes good.
No, that's all right. If it's good and it's reliable, we're all about that here on the program. So that's for sure. I did also kind of in the summer mode when I was there. I guess the whole Molson Coors family saw me coming when I went to the store because they had a deal on the aluminum pints for the Coors Light as well, and I'm like, oh yeah, that gotta have some of that hanging around for the summertime. Those things get so damn cold when you get them in the fridge, so it's perfect for that after mowing the grass beverage. So I had some of those too.
Yeah, that was kind of the thought process when I snagged these babies, because I was planning on doing some of that, a little bit of yard work, and I was like, well, I better reward myself for the those that time and effort. So I went ahead and grabbed those. And speaking of trying new things and deals as well, we're suckers for deals over here. The other day, the Sunny D seltzers. I don't know if you've seen those or give them a whirl, but a $4 12-pack. I couldn't pass that up. So gave those a sample last week or so, and honestly, I mean, not their seltzers are they're all pretty similar, and it's not a huge difference, but it was a little bit of nostalgia. So if you were like a Sunny D kid growing up, it wasn't too bad. And if you can get that deal, I'd recommend just having one or two. It's definitely a good type of summer drink at the pool, or on the slip and slide or what have you.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. Yeah, I have seen those. Yeah, I haven't tried one yet, so maybe I will have to do that, especially if I see the deal hanging out there in front of me. We are starting to see more of those, I think, here lately too. I don't know if it's the manufacturers are getting desperate to try to pump out some more volume or what it is, but I've seen quite a few like instant, gratification, $3 off here if you buy now kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not going to argue about it. That's a good thing for us.
Yeah, and it's definitely something too, though. I mean, those are the things you want to keep in a garage or a beer fridge or somewhere away from the kids, because it does. You got to watch that fine print. That the Sunny D. I've seen Monster has a hard version. Mountain Dew, of course. Yeah. Sonic. I think Sonic even put out some seltzer. So just yeah. I mean, we're all for it, but definitely gotta be that plus 21 to
Yeah.
give it a whirl. At least in my residence.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a line there, and it is kind of getting a little more blurry here as we move on down the road. But
No, hell of a marketing, but it's just
yeah,
you got to watch it, man. Them kids are sneaky.
no, yeah, no kidding. So that's what we're pouring here tonight. And speaking of doing yard work and kind of getting distracted, we did do some of that on Saturday. We got the garden planted, got all the veggies that we're going to grow into the raised bed and had some fun with that. And I got so into it, and it's how it goes on those nice days. You get to doing something, you kind of get distracted. And I totally forgot about turning on the TV in time to watch the Preakness. I knew in the back of my mind that it was happening. It was one of those things I just kind of like lost track of the day. And I called my dad about something else. And he's like, "Oh yeah, the gray horse." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, well, the Preakness just happened." I was like, "Oh crap, I just missed it." And so I went back and watched it. No Triple Crown winner this year, again, unfortunately. But we did have that opportunity, which we talked about on the last show, is what we want, as fans and viewers, to be able to see a horse get a shot at the Triple Crown. And it's not like he didn't give it a good run. He was second there with Mystic Dan trying to win that race, but there was another horse, Seized the Gray, who obviously seized the day and led the whole damn race. He came out and he led the pack, and he did not give up that lead the entire way. The other horse that was kind of getting a lot of love prior to this that we had talked about a long time ago, Muth, ended up having to scratch from the race, was one of the other so-called favorites. Had a fever, so they decided to sit him out. Unfortunately, you hate to see that. You want to see the best horses in the field, but it was a good race. I mean, they a couple of them came charging hard, and Mystic Dan gave it a good run there down the backstretch, but Seize the Gray just held him off. And it was another, I guess, pretty exciting finish. You're not going to match that Derby finish, but it was still a good race, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, the interesting thing is kind of like with the Derby. It's the first one, the biggest one, the most known one, of course. So you kind of have like a 8-10 hour build up to it, But then when you get past that, these other races just like comes on, 30-minute pregame and then let's roll. It's not
Yeah.
so it's easier to kind of let it slip past the goalie. And I would have liked to get some over under action on that. Well, probably take the overs, obviously, or the yes or no option. I guess it would be in this case, but of Seize the Day being in the final call there by the the announcer. I guarantee you could find a radio announcer, TV announcer. Either way, there's no way that wasn't in the final call there. So I guess that would have been where I would have made a play if that was an option, without knowing too much about the horses that were going to be in it because of getting sick or just a little bit more of uncertainty with this race kind of following the Derby. But yeah, that's I was kind of along the lines of I was a little bit preoccupied, but it was a good run and kind of unfortunately it would have been nice to go for the Triple Crown, but doesn't happen very often. So I guess we'll have to wait until next year.
Yeah, and one thing that was, well, there are two more interesting things that I did want to bring up about this. We talked about sometimes the short turnaround is something that keeps trainers away from running this race in the first place, or even giving that horse a chance. Well, the three horses that went 1, 2, 3 all had 2-week turnarounds. So it's you kind of broke that argument a little bit because they came out and were ready to go and ran. Now you would think that quick turnaround, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Seize the Gray, I don't remember him being in the Derby. Well, he wasn't. He was in the Pat Day Mile. He was still on the same card that day there at Churchill Downs. It was just a different race. It was the last lead-up race before the Derby that he won 2 weeks ago. So stepped up some competition, I guess, so to speak, and won the bigger race the next time around. So that was cool. And yeah, just cool to have those horses, be able to come out there. Catching Freedom was the one who ended up third. That was the horse that we talked about that had some of the Iowa ownership. He went fourth in the Derby, goes third here in the Preakness. And then Mystic Dan obviously at second. So it was a nice win for Dwayne Lucas, excuse me. Dwayne Lucas is the trainer, and he's kind of a legendary guy in the sport, and he's like 80 6 years old, I think now, and he still rides a horse every day, and the dude's just like, he set the standard long ago, and he's still living the life. Like, it's just cool to see those guys when they're so good at what they do. It kind of goes to show that sometimes you find a tried and true method, especially when it comes with working with animals. This guy's obviously got a good track record of doing that, and you find what works and you stick with it, and the guy's had a ton of success, so that is cool to see.
Well, and obviously at that point too, it's not even a money thing anymore. More than enough to live the rest of his life and eat comfortably, very comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's like you get to that point and you're like, well, all the hard work you put in to kind of get there, and you're still doing it. But yeah, that kind of in that case, and I know I'm not gonna say too much. Whatever this, there's a lot of good and bad that kind of get said about a lot of these owners in the stable. So it's kind of depends how you're asking your perspective. But at the same time, it's like you said, it's they've got there's a method to it, and there's a reason that they've had this success they've had. Say what you will about how they've gotten there, they've still been able to to put up the type of I guess numbers, put it this way, whatever however you want to say it, but they've been able to achieve accomplish their goals that they kind of set out for themselves one way or the other. And I mean, it's just whether they did it or not within the sport or not, it's they were able to do it. So I mean, I guess maybe you're not trying hard enough if you're not matching what they're doing. So
yeah. The other cool story about this, and if you were watching the race and you watched the end, you heard about this, and I'm sure maybe you've heard about it if you read about it too. But it just is kind of a cool thing, so I had to bring it up. The horse that won is actually owned by more than 2,500 people, because he is part of this.
The Green Bay Packers? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, basically.
They got a
yeah.
stock option there in the.
Yeah, there's a company called My Racehorse that this guy started, and that's exactly what it is, a crowdsourced deal. So you can spend so much money to get a piece in this racehorse. When they're born, they put them up, and, you buy your stake and your whatever share, I guess. And then, you help, the horse train, and you help him get to hopefully the biggest stage, and then win some money, and you probably get a little bit of return because of that. So obviously it's not going to be huge with that many people involved. You're not going to be, making bank, but just kind of a cool story, changing, I guess, the perspective of what most people would think when it comes to thoroughbred horse racing is only a billionaire is going to own one that's going to win a big race like that. And just cool to see that the everyman probably had a stake in this one.
Yeah, it's a hell of an idea. I mean, I guess you never would have. I know it wouldn't cross your mind until you try it and see if there's enough interest there. But I'm not sure the financial situation when they started. But for some people, maybe that'd be the only way they really could do it. To get in the game and be that type of thing. But then, like you said, it just the interest. I mean, it's a type of sport that always needs you need to grow and always kind of expand your audience, and always looking for a new kind of interesting way to keep your sport talked about. So I think this is a good way to do it, because that's I'm sure that's, like you said, just everywhere. You kind of one of those stories that's kind of floating around a lot, regardless of the sport or the entity what they normally cover. That's kind of one of those things that crosses over. Even by something you'd see on Good Morning America or something like that. It's kind of just a more of a human interest story at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. The founder, Michael Behrens, he made a couple of comments, and he just said, horse racing is such an amazing sport. Ownership is such a great thrill. And for this to unlock that, let people know that it's possible for anybody to participate and have this kind of moment, I think that's going to be big for business. He said it's big for racing, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. So obviously, I'm sure they'll gain some more traction now because they won a big race like that and got themselves on the national spotlight, and they'll be able to kind of grow from there. So pretty interesting. And I saw some comments from some of the people that were part of that ownership too. Of course, it gives them an added interest, and so they're betting the horse also at the same time. So hopefully winning a little extra money on the side because of that, because they have that extra added interest. But kind of fun, cool story.
Keep an eye on those unders bet though. If they're coming in hot, we're gonna go the opposite way, or go follow that tail it, because something's up. They're gonna have a little bit of insider info that that might be something to keep an eye on going forward.
That's true. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, it'll be a story to follow, I'm sure. More stuff like that happens in whatever sport it may be, I guess, as far as ownership of horses, cars, teams, whatever it may be down the road. Another thing that was big here over the weekend. I know you had some plays for folks here on this over the weekend, and I guess the full result didn't go your way, and it was kind of a shocking result. There's a new heavyweight champion as Tyson Fury lost his bout here over the weekend out there in Saudi Arabia, and looked like it was a pretty entertaining match for folks to watch.
Yeah, that was probably obviously the first thing is, of course, you always we want to win. That's we say that all the time. That's what we're trying to do here. But as a a fan, a spectator, like first thing I want was a competitive, exciting, especially when it comes to fights, because you're kind of like we talked about before. A lot of times you're watching at a not typical hour. This one was nice, like I said, because it was overseas. So, I think the main event started about 5 p.m. Central Time. So that's definitely better than the normal, 11:30 midnight type of, start time for a lot of boxing or MMA events. So that was good, and it lived up. I mean, it was kind of one of those hyped up fights where guys moving up. Of course, Usyk's had. I believe this was his sixth fight, maybe sixth or seventh anyway in that area of heavyweight. So he kind of moved up the ranks there. So it was one of those kind of career defining moments, and he did it. He came across. What was a split decision, so it was close. We were there, and I had Fury by decision, so we weren't too far off, about a point or two, and it looked like he kind of had it in the bank there. Of course, nothing's ever certain, and that's the way it played out there. And about I believe it was the 10th round is where he really got eighth or 10th, either way. Later in the fight, he got. I mean, he was seconds away from being stopped. Like he was out on his feet. I mean, the ropes held him up two or three different times. The ref finally stepped in there, and there a lot of the talk has been, damn, did the ref kind of save his butt and keep him in it? Because if he would have let him go down the first time and then stepped in and then let Usyk keep coming after him, would he have finished him in that round? And that was kind of a little bit of the talk. Of course, that was a little bit muted because he ended up getting the decision. So he won the fight still. But I mean, can you imagine, your biggest heavyweight challenge as someone that's not a natural heavyweight, and you knock out an undefeated fighter who hadn't really kind of tasted that type of action before? That was kind of crazy. But like I said, lost the bet, sucks, whatever. But as far as strategy wise, I think he actually fought a pretty good fight. Fury did, until he kind of started, doing the goofing and kind of taunt
Mm-hmm.
type thing. And I don't know if it was because he was getting tired and he just needed a break and wanted to throw, or if he was just, kind of just being Tyson Fury, which could be the case too. He's always kind of outlandish. Even if someone that's not like big into boxing, you've seen just stuff with him. He's got a Netflix show that people might have seen. Just kind of, he's a little bit out there. I know he's had some mental health problems and even some addiction issues, but just his personality in general, he's kind of a little bit brash, I guess if you want to call it that. He's a little bit not really braggadocious, but just kind of like he just kind of says some wacky things. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's just kind of live up to that character and kind of trying to, maybe a way to get in his opponent's head. But it ended up, to me at least, from my perspective, I think that really backfired on him and gave him an opening, because with the reach, with the size and the reach advantage, Fury's 6'9", they have him listed at, and Usyk was right around 6'3", according to the official tail of the tape there. And basically, Usyk's best punch was a literal leaping left hook, where he was. I mean, if he wasn't off the canvas, he was real, and he just kind of really just had to throw his whole body into it. And if you can see that coming, and you kind of the uppercut was working for Fury when he was paying, kind of countering that shot. But I don't know, just to know that that's kind of the only punch that's going to hurt you, and to let it connect like it did there when you're that late in the fight, to me, it was more of a strategy thing than anything. Or he wasn't as fit as maybe we were led to believe, because he was a little bit leaner than he had been. But the fight before, he would. It was really hard not to be leaner than that when he fought Francis Ngannou. He looked bad. Like he was a mess. But yeah, either way, I mean, all in all, good fight. I enjoyed it, and look forward to some more. We got some pretty big events coming up here this summer, so look forward to those. And we'll rebound. We'll come back, and it wasn't too big of a loss there. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it looked entertaining. I just went back and watched the highlights and stuff, and see, yeah, I kind of got him. going in that, like you said, that later round there, and he was doing the clown walk almost there a couple times, not trying not to fall down, and that anytime you get to that point, odds are the other guy's probably going to get the call in the fight if he keeps up any kind of consistency. I was surprised though too, seeing Fury later kind of did bounce back a little bit. He looked a little stronger later, in the fight, but yeah, it was a good one. It looked like the two guys were kind of very respectful of each other afterwards as well. So that's always cool to see when it's just good, solid competition. Get some of that other nonsense going on. So, yeah, interesting, and certainly a guy that's been in that spotlight for such a long time. For somebody to take that title away from him is a big deal. And this is a guy that like you said, put in his time, put in his work. He may not have a whole long list of professional fights in his background, but he certainly has been doing this stuff for an awful long time, as an amateur, taking his lumps and getting prepared for this kind of moment. So cool to see a guy like that have some success. So yeah, there'll be some bigger fights on down the road, and we'll keep our eye on all that stuff as it breaks here through the rest of the year. And I'm sure that's not the last we're going to hear of Tyson Fury either.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, the good thing, at least, post fight speeches, take it from what they will, but the Fury did have a rematch clause, so there's a chance we could see it again, and it was, I definitely be one I'd like to watch again. I don't think I'm alone in that, so there's that option there. We'll see. A lot of things are said post fight when that adrenaline's still pumping and you're still maybe a little pissed off there of what happened, but I mean, in that type of fight, you have no one to blame but yourself. The opportunity was there, and just kind of let it slip away, or just he was the better man on that day.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to transition from to about the exact opposite of a kind of sport that you can here. Go from trying to knock a dude's head off to trying to hit a little golf ball into a hole. PGA Championship here this weekend.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's some maybe some little post extracurricular activities there. So maybe some law enforcement involved these days. So maybe golf's kind of getting a little street cred.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we're getting hard here in the golf world. Yeah, that was a big part of the story of the weekend, and probably actually is going to get more attention than the winner, unfortunately. But yeah, Scotty Scheffler ends up getting arrested the morning he's supposed to play his second round. He did make it back to the course and still played his round, and on top of that, played a phenomenal round once he got there to the course. It sounds like this, the whole deal is just kind of a big misunderstanding. Like the two sides just weren't on the same page with what was going on. There was an accident just outside of the entrance to the golf course that actually killed someone because.
Well, that was the thing to me. I was like, I get it's like a golf story from the perspective, and like sports. Sports media is mostly what I cover, so that's or mostly what I'm like consuming. Excuse me. So that's where I heard it from. But I was like, bro, like a dude literally like died. Can we focus on that part of it? Like, I get that you guys want your golfer to win and all that, but to me that was that even if it was a sport I followed or someone I was like quote unquote a fan of, I thought that was a little bit, to me that was a little bit obnoxious and kind of it's like I don't know, it's just like, what the hell are we doing? Like, who cares about a damn tournament? This dude freaking died.
Yeah,
and he was supposed to work the tournament, right? Like as a volunteer, and he's retired and all this stuff, and he's just going there because he loves golf and he wanted to be a part of the game there, and I don't know.
Yeah. That's I guess a sad take on our society. That what should be the story is this guy lost his life. It's terrible stuff, but it becomes because of what happened afterwards. But so anyways, as they were trying to kind of control the situation, it sounded like it was just a bit of chaos, which those things usually are. You got a lot of people trying to set the rules and boundaries, and maybe they're not always all on the same page. So police were trying to set up kind of a perimeter and not let people move, essentially, at the time that he showed up. And now Scheffler, when he showed up, he was in a courtesy vehicle and had his credentials and all that. He saw the security presence, when he pulled up and was like in the line or whatnot. So he just thought that this is like the security traffic, essentially, I think is what he kind of took it as, and tried to go around the stoppage of traffic because of the situation. Well, obviously the officers were not very happy about that, because everybody was just supposed to be stopped, and they're trying to set this perimeter, and so he gets chased down. He ends up getting arrested because they call it reckless driving and all the different types of things. You're endangering the officers that are there on the scene and that type of stuff. Certainly, I don't think anything that was intentional on his part. There probably was a little bit of that,
you know who I am type
entitlement.
of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah.
Like I got
Don't
places to
be
be here,
entitled.
yeah. Like I got to go get this tea time, whatever.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah.
At the end of the day, obviously, yeah, isn't that important when we got the
Mhm.
situation that they're dealing with? And they did end up delaying the tournament anyways because of what was going on. So yeah, it's just kind of a whole mess. But anyways, he spent his few hours, got his mugshot, and headed back out to the course and played. I saw some guys even had his mugshot on a T-shirt by the time the
Right,
end of the
right.
day ran around. So it's like just the world we live in now is just so wild. How that stuff
I mean, credit
escalates.
them to the quick turnaround because that was just within hours they had to have had that printed.
Mm-hmm.
So that I guess good thinking there, good entrepreneurship. Maybe use that for something a little more positive, perhaps, and
Yeah.
probably can make yourself some money. But yeah, I mean, I even took a run at it too. I was like, after that first round, I was like, man, I'm gonna throw down on this cat and see if he can end up taking it all. It's just one of those like not a big confidence, but hey man, after that first round, sprinkle a little on there and see if you get a good return. But yeah, it's I don't know, kind of it was like when you saw the headline, it was one of those that you're like, okay, hold on, you gotta kind of read it 2 or 3 times and check it up, a couple different sources, and like it just sounded like
Yeah.
some made some, we might get, we caught a couple of news stories over this week that it's like, is this a freaking hoax?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it real? And it ended up being real, and yeah, it's real crazy. I mean, nothing surprises you, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's still hard to believe when you read something until you start seeing, the footage and the news stories and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty wacky start to that tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and he did play well. Yeah, it would have been a hell of a story had he just gone and won the damn tournament. That would have been another whole other extra layer on it. But Xander Schauffele ends up being the guy who wins it. He was the one that was leading early on too, so he played well. He shot 6 under here on this Sunday. Ended up birdieing the final hole. Pretty nice putt that he snuck in on the left side of the cup to get it to go down to win and win by a shot over Bryson DeChambeau. So hats off to Schauffele and a nice tournament victory there for him. But certainly an interesting weekend outside of just the golf for that deal here as well. Yeah, you mentioned stories that sometimes, and that's that's part of the world too. Like sometimes it's so hard to determine what's real and what's not anymore because everybody has access to different types of media connections, and you can make things sometimes look like they're actual journalism reporting. And we had one that you had sent to me here over the weekend that at first sight I believed it too. I thought, oh, this is a real story. Somebody had started to spread around a gambling investigation that was affecting supposedly 22 Baylor football players.
Well, when you think about it too, it's with Baylor. It's
Yeah,
not like
nothing. Yeah,
they're not nobody new to scandal, so that right there, that's not going to trigger any kind of uncertainty. You're like, okay, Baylor, what are they doing now?
yeah. Kidding. They've been headlines of all kinds of bad things, whether it be
Right.
people getting murdered or sexual assault or whatever the
Yeah,
case
yeah.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, not laughing at what happened, but it's
yeah.
just like you like, whoa, like it's not that unheard of that they would be being getting involved in something, some shady again there.
Yeah, but it turns out the story was just created by somebody that was a parody thing. He was just making it up. But it did get started to spread around by a lot of different reputable people and like kind of picking it up and then reporting it and passing it on, as real news. Which, yeah, I mean, it's not the first time it's happened. It ain't going to be the last time it's happened, but it's getting harder and harder for the general public to look at something and, determine that it is actually factual. You almost every time now, if there's something that's a big story, you probably need to do just a little bit of research to figure out if this really is true.
Well, then you bring in, new technology, the AI type stuff and
Yeah.
all that. It's like you read some of those and you can tell it is. And I was like, I mean, this is supposed to be real, but it's freaking horrible. So I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a money saving thing, but yeah, that's part of it too. It's like, I mean, just read past the damn headline. Do it with Google, man. Like we're so fortunate to have that type of service these days. Like I think back to like, couldn't you imagine like if I would have had it's a lot better grades than I did end up having, considering I mean, I remember, we were on the going and watching the friggin' the microfiche and friggin' looking up shit in the damn library with the damn Dewey Decimals and all that stuff. So, yeah, just there's a lot of, I mean, yeah, we have technology that makes it a little tougher to tell, but at the same time, we have technology that
Yeah.
makes it easier to decipher what's real and what's not. So, you got to use your brain, man. Still, either way, even no matter what we have, like you got to be able to think for yourself and come to your own conclusions. And if you know how to read, you should be able to figure out most of these things. But sometimes it's a little comical, and I'm fine with that because you
Yeah.
can, obviously some of these parodies make it really outlandish where it's like,
Hmm.
but when it's someone trying to pass it off as something, I don't really care for that just because of the fact that there is a lot of people that won't kind of
Hmm.
do their own homework or don't take the time and just kind of take a headline as fact, and that then we just playing that bad game of telephone that is that's the freaking a cancer to the culture these days, if you
Hmm.
ask me.
Yeah. Well, and I don't understand sometimes too what like kind of the end game is for some of these people.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
what are
like,
you getting at? Like you just get a little chuckle, like
yeah,
them. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
it's like I don't think you're getting any monetary gain off
no,
it. You're not, building your following like that because yeah, maybe someone goes to your page for this one thing, but then when they find out you're a parody or a hoax or something, a phony, they're probably gonna block you or be like, "Don't follow that stupid ass," like
yeah,
so. Not really in the long run, you're not really doing yourself favors. It's kind of like just like one of those freaking dweebs that you knew in college that just, thinks the dumbest shit is funny. I guess
yeah.
they're just kind of carrying on that, that tradition on past college.
Hmm. Yeah, if it's actually something that's funny, we got onion style stuff going on.
Right. Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, you're trying to gain people eyeballs on that kind of stuff, and you got something going there. But yeah, this is yeah. I just don't when you're doing one off things that really aren't that outlandish and could be believed to be real. Like I don't know what you're
Well, I mean, I
looking
guess Barstool has existed for as long as
at.
I have for a reason, so there's an audience for it. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I just
Hmm.
there's there's a lot of those people that do enjoy that for
Yeah,
one reason or another, I suppose.
yeah, making shit up. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The cautionary tale. Do your research. Make sure stuff you're looking at is actually the truth. And for us folks in Iowa, not so funny when you're joking about that kind of crap because we just went through that shit last year, and turns out it pretty much all got thrown out anyways because it was just a giant mess of an investigation. So yeah,
Well, there's many things, even with pro athletes, that's happened. It's like
yeah,
it's possible. I mean, you're not gonna at first glance, you're not just gonna be like, there's no way that's happening. I mean, look how many incidents we've talked about that are legit.
uh huh,
So I mean,
yeah,
it's not that part of it wasn't as in but it's just
yeah,
as a whole, it's just a little ridiculous. But like
yeah.
we said, we got our brains. Let's just use them.
Hmm. And we know there's still going to be those problems, but let's hope that these kids are paying attention and seeing that, yeah, these things are happening to even people in professional ranks, and we should probably knock this shit off if we don't want to get in trouble. So,
That'd be good advice for him.
we'll see. Yeah, there'll be some more stories down the road. Moving on to other sports that are actually still going on. We'll jump here into the NBA playoffs because it has been pretty entertaining here lately. I'm always one of those guys that has never been a huge just fan of the league in itself. When I was a young kid, you kind of got sucked into some of the stars. I think that was kind of a big era, the era that we grew up in with a lot of those people that were really publicized well. The NBA, as we talked about, I think recently, has started, I think, to maybe turn that corner again, where you're getting some more of these guys that are, face of the franchise type players, face of the league type guys, and it has been getting more entertaining to watch. And I've even enjoyed sitting down and watching some of these games, even though I don't really have a team that I call my own or whatever.
Well, it's about
Dog
time
in
to
the
get
fight.
one. You're gonna have to start looking here.
I know. Well, I'm probably going to
Don't
hop
get
on
the
the
thunder. I
Pacers
mean, spoiler
bandwagon.
alert. Yeah.
Former Cyclone Tyrese Halliburton's having one
Oh,
hell of a
there you
run
go.
here, so maybe we'll have to stick on it, ride his horse. But yeah, there's been some good series, and one of those, I guess, we can start there because it just happened this afternoon. The Pacers did knock off the Knicks in Game 7 here today to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, and really just came out firing right away in that game. A lot of people were, I think, writing them off to win that series just because they are a very young team. It's not a lot of experience outside of a couple of guys. And of course, the Knicks with their kind of rejuvenation that they've had as well with Jalen Brunson. And you get that crowd, usually you think that's a huge advantage. But the Pacers did what they had to do to kind of take them out of it early, tamper that enthusiasm down a little bit. And when you shoot the lights out, you win basketball games. And that's what they did today.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do when the team shoots 67% for the game. Like now that's I mean, it has to be
Nuts.
some kind of a record, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I mean, even with the Brunson injury, I know Knicks have had a couple of guys out too, but
Hmm.
that wouldn't. To be honest, I don't think it would have mattered shooting that well.
Hmm.
It was just their day to kind of show that there may be a team that's gonna hang around here going forward because they are pretty young too. Both teams are young. I mean,
Yeah.
we're probably going to see some Knicks and Pacers series here for the next 4 or 5 years at least, maybe longer.
Yeah.
So it's something to get used to, and I mean, I think that's a good thing. Those have always been pretty strong basketball markets and good fan bases, and we got some players that are kind of worthy of it because we've seen a lot of these hype jobs lately. I think that's probably been one of the biggest issues facing the league is just trying to make a star when it's not really a star. And now we have legit players. I mean, they're being made stars after they've put it on the court that they're worthy of it, not the other way around. So
Yeah.
I think that makes it a little more manageable there for the league as a whole. And then I think the move to NBC is going to be a big deal there. That was kind of the staple for so long. They did a hell of a job, and I know people hate the Peacock, and even freaking Collinsworth's not exactly my favorite on air talent, if you want to call it that either. But I do think NBC does a hell of a job with sports. I think they're real good with their coverage and just the production value. I mean, take the whatever the service fee out of it, and having to download a new app, which these people complain about downloading apps. They got 65 different poker apps right on their phone that they don't give a shit about downloading. But one more, little to watch a game is a big deal. But that's beside the point. But the actual value of the production value of it, and the camera angles, and the in and out the commercial breaks. There's no lag. They don't you don't hear there's someone in the background going, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like a friggin' was that fucking the bowl getting the Bahamas Bowl, I think, like or friggin' people forgetting to hit the cough button, like
Yeah.
they're buttoned up. I mean, of course they've been doing it forever, but at the same time it's like they don't really miss a beat with that part of it. So I think that's going to be a big deal. And let's get some hopefully some new on-air talent, some new announcers. I know for some reason there's this love of that NBA on TNT show, and at one point I was there with it. I thought it was a pretty good quality product, but I do believe in this, my opinion. Speaking alone, I'm probably on an island here of people that will speak up because for some reason everyone loves Barkley's eloquent sentences. All of a sudden he's some great speaker and some man of the people. Thinking dumbass don't tell you anything worth a damn. I don't remember one statement he's made that's kind of give any insight to a game or anything like that. And it's kind of just become like a friggin' slapstick. They're trying to be funny, just all these gimmicks. And to me, like, that's fine. You want to do that. I don't think you're very funny, but if you're trying to be funny, that's fine. Do that. But for as myself and what I'd like to consume, I want some analysis, some insight. I want something that's going to kind of help me, whether either digest the game or at least like kind of maybe point something out that maybe I wasn't thinking first off. And I think Kenny Smith does a decent job with that still, but he's out. He can't hang with Barkley and Shaq. Those big mouths. They ain't shutting up for nothing. So, and Shaq, you can't barely understand him. Like, you need subtitles half the time. And I mean, Ernie's just kind of there anymore these days, just trying to show off the bow tie, and that's about all he's doing these days. So I mean, I know he's had a lot of personal problems, so maybe he's just like, screw it, I'm enjoying life one day at a time. He's had a lot of health issues, so he's just along for the ride. But to me, it's kind of it's run its course. It's done. We don't need to keep that on. That was more of a thing like after the fact. It seemed amazing, but I haven't watched it in years. I've tried a couple of times. I'm like, this shit is just stupid. Like, it's not worth watching. I guess a lot of the online stuff. Most of the people I regularly converse with aren't big NBA fans, so maybe that's why, and they just don't watch it. But I've heard very few people kind of come against the show, and I don't know if I don't know what it is, why they have some why there's this this love affair with this show, because anymore it's not even really that good of quality content. It's just guys that you used to like or that you liked at one point. You're like, feel bad for them, I guess, but I wouldn't feel bad for millionaires.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what it is more so than anything, is that, they're known commodities, and people that have known their whole lives growing up, and they kind of know the character and the individual that they've created for themselves. So that's part of it. I do agree with you that I think it's kind of one of those run its course type of thing, because it has degraded. Like, there was some more kind of basketball hard stuff in there, and now, it's definitely more so about how can we make this the best joke we can tonight kind of thing. It's not, it's lost its focus a little bit for sure. I did think it was interesting. I saw, some talk with Barkley. Dan Patrick did an interview with him. I saw, and he talked about, like what are you going to do? And he's the only one that really is
What?
like,
He don't need to do anything. What do you mean? What's
yeah,
he gonna do? Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like,
because
go
he,
away. Hopefully, I hope he
yeah.
just goes away. Like,
Well, he said
please.
he's a free agent, so he can go wherever he wants. And the other ones, I guess, must have different situations with their
Yeah, I
contracts or
heard
whatever.
something
So
about his contract. He has like a clause that he put in, which was actually a good move by his agent or whoever
yeah,
negotiated lawyers, whatever. But that if they lose the rights to the NBA, which it sounds like that's going to be the case, all but a done deal, that he could leave Turner. He wouldn't
yeah,
be, but otherwise, like if they just like if he just felt like going, he wouldn't be able to just leave his contract. But if
hmm
for some reason they don't have the NBA, I guess he's got some out clause. But
yeah,
maybe hopefully they go a different direction. I
yeah.
mean, we saw how long his other show lasted, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he did say something about well, it wouldn't be the same without Ernie, and Ernie Johnson's already said that he's not leaving Turner.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean, yeah, like we talked about, I don't know, he needs to just kind of probably needs to enjoy life. He's had a
yeah,
hell of a
yeah,
run
that's
lately,
true.
like God,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he's overcome a lot for sure. So yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But yeah, I think it is a good thing for the sport. The other part of that too, and I know it's not that big of a deal anymore because it's not the way that people consume that media for the most part anymore. But it does still have a little bit of merit that it is going to be on a network, a
Yeah.
full-time network television station that people can access for free if they're in the right spot. So that does make a difference to have that kind of more widespread access to people to grow your game. So we'll see how that transition goes when it comes. But I think you're right. It is probably a really good thing for the NBA. Speaking of other, series, the Oklahoma City Thunder have been, of course, a team that's been hot to watch this year. They got themselves right up to the brink of getting here into this conference finals round, but couldn't quite get it done. The Mavericks got in their way, and I watched part of or some of that game the other night, and I watched the run right before halftime that the Thunder put on, and I'm like, they're gonna cook this game. Like they were on fire. They went on like a 16-2 run or whatever there at the end of the half. It was just making everything. And then I walked away for a little bit, and I came back, and I'm like, holy crap, how the hell did the Mavericks get back into this? And that's the way the game is sometimes. But the Mavericks really weathered one hell of a storm to win that series.
Yeah, and then the fourth quarter, at one point, I believe it was 16, but for sure it was a 13-point lead for the Thunder in the fourth quarter at
Mm-hmm.
one point with maybe 8 or 9 minutes left. And of course, we know that's not a nothing that's never been hasn't been overcome in the NBA
Yeah.
time and time again. It's those leads, but it was more about the way they were playing and getting that lead. It wasn't like Dallas was playing like shit. Like they were going back and forth. They just
Mm-hmm.
couldn't pick up any ground. Even at the end, Dallas kind of tried to pull away there in the last couple of minutes, and freaking SGA was just
Yeah.
freaking bombing three. I mean, he would not let that team go. So I mean, they did everything they could do. I mean, honestly, like it was a hell of a series. Both teams, obviously, both ways. It was hard fought. That was probably one of the lone series because I know we had a lot of game sevens, game sixes, which is a good thing. But there was a couple of the series where it's like, well, yeah, they made it to 7 games, but almost like every other game was like a blowout. Like
Mm-hmm.
either one
Yeah.
team, so necessarily not a good. It was a long series, but I wouldn't define that a good series. I know there was a one or two here. You're always gonna get one or two blowouts in a series. Just that's kind of just the nature of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one was a little bit probably if not the most one of the most competitive here, at least in this round so far for being a kind of an earlier series. And same thing with Indiana and New York, how we could probably that's something to get used to watching. Same thing with these two teams, and
Yeah.
I mean the distance between them, you could build a hell of a rivalry between these two teams there. It's
Yeah.
like 3 hours between the cities, so that could be something to build on there too, as long as they both keep having success. And I don't see why that would change because the players they got are on the younger side for the
Yeah.
most part. The rosters, both teams.
Yeah, very true. Very true. That was fun to watch. So Pacers will move on to take on the Celtics here now in the next round, and then of course the Mavs are going to take on the winner of the Wolves Nuggets. It's happening here this evening as we are recording. They're in Game 7, so it should be fun. There'll be some good series there in the conference finals to watch and pay attention to. I think that'll be good stuff. In relation to the Thunder. You had sent me this story about a gentleman who had himself quite the ticket in his pocket that was just burning a hole, and eventually he got himself out when the getting was good, and it turned out to be a good move at the end of the day. But anyways, he had a very small wager that could have turned into a $1.7 million win on this one bet.
Couldn't that be us?
Yeah, no kidding. So he placed a 3-leg parlay last year where he picked the Thunder to win the NBA Finals, the Texas Rangers to win in Major League Baseball, and the Kansas City Chiefs to win in the NFL. And this was like plus, what was it, over $1 million odds? Yeah, with a boost. He had a boost too. He had a 50% boost on it, so even better. But obviously the other two teams got it done, so he was down to the Thunder being the last team there to possibly get him this full $1.7 million. And ended up being kind of one of those things where it was, really weighing on him like it would anybody. You have that kind of cash on the line. So he ended up deciding that he was going to get out of the bet when he had an opportunity there. He kind of made a statement beforehand that his magic number before the game that he got out after was 80,000. If it gets to 80,000, that they give me an opt-out, cash out, I'm going to do it. And that's what he ended up doing and taking a little over $80,000.
That's the type of gambling I can get behind, because that would be this along the same lines I would do. You set your limits, you kind of stick with your guidelines, and you don't budge from that. So I'd done the same thing, man. And I think the day he cashed out was the day that they won Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have had Game 7 coming up, but he's still obviously now, he made the right move. But even when it happened, I was like, bro, you got to do that. That's because even if they get out this series, then they still got to win 2 more series to cash out that bet. So of course he would have got cash out offers as it went, but I do. That's good. That's good. That's what we want to. And me, I'll speak for myself. That's exactly the way you gamble. You gotta have a system. Some type of guidelines with how much money that you play and how much that you want to win, and to kind of stick to those, and you'll be good. You'll come out maybe not as far as the numbers on top, but you'll be fine. You're not going to get yourself into some major problems. You might not be up money. You might not be up more than you bet, but you won't be as behind as you might be if you kind of let that get away from you and let the emotions get in there and kind of start doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, and obviously it wasn't, the most sensible wager, I guess, to begin with, but it was $100. But, if you can afford it, what the hell? Yeah. He was picking winners. So that's a little bit different than some kind of random ass parlay on a Tuesday night, so.
Well, I said, why couldn't it be us? That would never be me, because I hate futures. Like I'm maybe a season total, and I'm doing it probably like the first week of the season early, but to me, it just kind of seems like one of those, like you're kind of handing them the money when you do it. Of course, everything's different when it comes to like how much you're betting, what you're betting. If it's something that you're just like, I'll take a flyer on this, that's totally different. So all of it. But for me, like I rarely play the futures, and it's just because I guess I don't have the patience thing and waiting that long. I don't care for that. Mentally, that's why I stay away from it. It's too long of a sweat, man. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want to play that day, and by the end of the day, I know whether I won or lost. That's more why I like to do it, and that's just a personal preference. It's not right or wrong. That's just the way I like to do it.
Yeah, because even within that season, you would get some pretty heavy moments where you're like, do I get out? Do I? It's one of those things where you're always going to be thinking about it.
I can't recall off the top of the head with how the World Series played out, but I'm just thinking of the NFL. The Chiefs, like they had some hell of a close games there in the playoffs, and some moments where you're like, damn, there goes this. But that's good for him. Hope he's maybe not betting all that money right back, saving a little bit and maybe investing some, and then couple more plays too. That's all right.
He did
you can do another $100 bet.
Yeah. He did have an opportunity to get just a little bit more than that. They said that the offer was a little over 100,000 when they won the first game of that series against the Mavericks.
I'd have been done.
Yeah. So once they lost the next game, then he was like, "Oh shit, okay, now I'm setting my mark, and if it gets there, I'm out."
I'm sure that changes. Yeah, definitely had to adjust that mindset. But that'd have been tough to just let that one sit there.
Hell of a deal. I will admit, I'm kind of one of those people. I do something usually for fun. I've done it I can't. I did do it, I think, with the Chiefs last year, but like the teams I follow. So I've always done one just for shits at the beginning of the NHL season with the Penguins. Like I'll put $20 on for them to win the Stanley Cup, and it's just kind of my like fan thing, like whatever, But
It's a tradition, man. We
yeah,
all have our That's there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying like as a regular gambling
yeah.
practice,
No,
got to stay away from the future.
yeah,
You want to do your favorite team do their win total or something.
yeah.
Let's
That's
do
true.
it. Make it kind of because you're just amped up for the season and ready to go. That's all good. It's
Mm-hmm.
I have no problems with what are we gonna call them, superstitions, traditions, habits, whatever. That's all good.
Yeah. So that was, an interesting story, certainly related to what we talk about a lot. So congratulations to that gentleman.
Yeah.
He made the right call. He got his money and didn't end up with zero, which he would have here as we talk today had he not done that.
Today would not have been a good day.
No. Also in the NHL, I just want to touch on that real quick. There has been some really good hockey as always in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but we're just waiting on one more series to finish up to get us on to the next round completely. The Panthers did finally finish off the Bruins, which was a nice run for them. They went hard there after the Bruins won the opening game of that series, so they win at 4-2. Stars beat the Avalanche 4-2 in that series as well, and the Rangers advanced with a 4-2 series win over the Hurricanes. The one that's left will be a Game 7 tomorrow night, so it might be one you want to turn the TV on for. Should be fun. 8 o'clock start, Canucks and Oilers. Couple of Canadian teams, that those fans will be absolutely bananas for that game. It's been a fun series too. I've watched that one a couple of different games, and they've got young, fast players. It's a good speed pace of hockey and really talented guys as well. You're talking about McDavid and Draisaitl and it's really fun players to watch. So that's going to be one hell of a Game 7 to see who gets on to the next round. And I would put good money on who wins that series has got a real good chance to advance onto the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, that happened to be the game 6 last night happened to be on right before one of the boxing cards I was watching, and I caught the end of that. But man, they put a whooping on. Was it 5-1?
Yeah, it was big
And
last.
and I was like, holy! And I was like, well, they were down in the series too.
Yeah.
But that's, we talked even with the playoff start. Like I was kind of talking about the challenge of kind of making some plays with the NHL. It's just like it is really back and forth. There's this. I guess you probably call that to the the parity of the league, which is a good thing. I don't think it's bad. It's just like makes it all that more challenging to kind of call something and be consistent with it and be kind of make your plays be winners, because it flips like that, man, game after game. And shoot, it'd be hard to pick against them that after that game, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's hockey, man.
Yeah. Interesting little side note too that they kept mentioning on the broadcast was that the Canucks, who are, of course, a Canadian team, given the name, they only have 2 Canadian players on their roster, and that just kind
of be a riot, man.
Yeah, it just gives you an idea of how much the game has grown, though. I think internationally and through the U.S. A lot of the guys that they have, their stars, are from the U.S. and places that you wouldn't think, like Florida. So it's a game that's grown, just like everything else. I think competition is continued to be a big focus in whatever sport it may be, and everything seems to be growing right now. But interesting little nugget for that. But it'll be fun. Watch that series tomorrow night. I'm leaning Oilers, like you said, after that performance the other night, and just the stars that they have. I think they're going to come shine when the moment's the brightest. But that'll be fun. That'll be a good one. We'll have plenty of that, of course, to look forward to, both the NBA and NHL as we get into the conference finals, and have some plays to give you along the way. So we hope that you keep following us for those as we kind of come and go with it. I know SJ's been pretty darn consistent with getting you some stuff every day. I usually kind of, if I take a shot in the groin one night, I kind of take the next night off usually, but
that's not bad life advice. You want to you gotta protect that region, but yeah, it's I don't know, just trying to put them out there for everyone. It's there's sometimes factor in the winning or not the winning, but it gotta strike while the iron's hot, I suppose.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff's going on, and sometimes too, like that's why we put some of those graphics on there too about how we're feeling about it, because it might just be, oh, this is fun to put $1 on tonight or whatever.
Yeah, we're not everything's not $100 bet like our buddy there at 180,000. So keep that in mind, of course, always. And yeah, just and some it's the way I list them, I try to make it clear if it's like a parlay or not too.
Yeah.
So like obviously like I might put three things in a row, but it's I'm not those are separate single
Yeah.
bets. So
Mm-hmm.
keep that. We're just doing the straight bets sometimes too. So that kind of factors in too, because maybe I lose or one of us loses one bet, but we won another bet that
Mm-hmm.
was double the amount we bet on. So we're ahead. So
Yeah.
even though
Uh-huh.
we're 1-1, we're still ahead. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's I mean, without we don't want to put all those details out there. That's our personal business, but yeah, definitely kind of just play what you will. But that's just stuff we feel good about. Put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. So keep looking for that. If you're on Twitter at SJM Bets and then at Cherokee CP, we'll share those things out and put those graphics out for you. Of course, we'll continue to take any kind of interaction or feedback you give us on that platform there as well. And then also through whatever way you consume the podcast, available everywhere. You can find it. And of course, including on Spotify is kind of our home for the audio portion. And then, of course, we're available on YouTube, and we have done some videos in the past for you, and we'll do more of that too as we continue on. I think probably too when we get down to the nitty gritty here, the NBA and NHL, we'll probably have some fun with that too. So look for those. You might want to subscribe, get those notifications or whatever if you're want to be aware of when those things happen. And we'll try to let you know here on the pod when we plan on doing that too. So we appreciate all that feedback in whatever platform it is. If you do happen to have any issues with like your preferred platform where you're getting the show and you're not finding it or whatever the case may be, let us know. Give me a shout there on socials. And I'll figure it out what may be the issue and get you straightened out. But I think as far as I know, everything's running swimmingly and smoothly. So we hope that you continue to interact with us. So have some fun with it. And I know SJ will be locked into some more hoops and puck here this week for sure.
Yeah, got like I said, some decent fights coming up as well. So we'll be ready to roll and get you some, like you said, get some plays out there as often, early and often as we can. That's another thing we try to do is get them out early in the day because, like, if you watching, the books and the lines, you don't get some of those bets in a second or two later. It's changing on your ass. So yeah, we try to get them out as early as possible. So maybe we'll come up with a little scheme here and try to be more like clockwork, maybe, by a certain time every day or something like that. But we'll discuss off air and we'll get something out for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So I hope you enjoy that. Thanks for joining us here for the program again this week. We hope you have a terrific week out there as well. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.